Hey guys, this is a topic that I've covered a little bit in the past and have talked about at a high level in my review of the Night's Edge Soul Eater. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'm going to link it up here on the top right, and hopefully you can go check that out and take a look at it. But something I've talked about in the past is that I would never recommend Night's Edge Soul Eater for a new player. I feel like there is a little bit of a misconception that Night's Edge Soul Eater is a very brain dead and easy class to play, and that pretty much anybody can do good damage on it, and that is definitely not true at all, at the slightest. I think Night's Edge Soul Eater is a fairly hard class to play because of a couple reasons. One, you have 2 meters to manage, so your Soulstone meter and your Edge meter, and because of this, it is something that a lot of new players just, can't really grasp that easily. It takes a little bit of time to learn. But also, on top of that, Night's Edge Soul Eater has a very, very strict rotation. And that strict rotation, again, does come from this meter right here, the Soulstone meter. And because of this strict rotation, I feel like it's something that's extremely hard for new players to get into the class, and even players that have played the game for a while but haven't played a class that has such a strict rotation, or even a rotation at all. Let's say I'm just a new player and I'm spamming skills like this, right? And then I'm hitting the skills. Now what I do? What's going to happen to my rotation? You see, pretty much any time you make a mistake in your rotation, it just causes the entirety of your kind of game plan to go out the window. And it really messes up with the flow of your gameplay, and you have to make a lot of on-the-fly decisions in the middle of the fight, which for a new player, most of the time, you're really just worrying about the fight itself, and your character and thinking about how your character plays is kind of a little bit of a secondary thing. I think the most important thing for a new player is to learn how to fight before learning how to DPS. Of course, the best classes are, the best classes for new players are the classes where you can do decent damage without even having to worry about your character, which is why I don't think that Night's Edge Soul Eater is the class for new players, because you do need to worry about your character in addition to worrying about the fight. And let's just take this into a couple of real world examples as well. That way we can showcase why, again, there's just a lot of decision making that goes into Night's Edge Soul Eater that a new player probably will not be able to do on top of learning the rates. Now, the following clips were created to mimic real-life situations that you might encounter as a Night's Edge Soul Eater. Again, I've played the class for quite a bit, so I've encountered these situations quite a few times. You're going to see me whiff some skills on purpose, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're whiffing a skill in the completely wrong direction. New players aren't going to do that. Well, 1, sometimes they might, but 2, sometimes a boss does a pattern where it causes your attacks to whiff or miss, and as a result will make your life a little bit more difficult. So let's jump into this first situation. So, in this first situation, I completely missed my soul drain, right? Let's say the Sonnenveld does a little backstep thing, or the back twirl, or a teleport, and you miss your soul drain. Well, what do you do in this situation? You cannot get enough bubbles just off of what you're doing right now, right? Your rotation is completely ruined. What do? Do you wait for your skills to come back up? Do you auto attack while you wait? Do you use lethal spinning to make up for it? That's a decision that a new player has to make, right? In this situation, I think the best course of action is to use your lethal spinning to make up for it, and then just proceed with your rotation as you normally would do. Now, granted, right here, we have to make another decision. Do we use Soul Drain to make up for the missing meter? Do we wait for our skills to come back up to make up for the missing meter? Or do we just auto attack? Well, in this case, what I did was I waited for my skills to come back up, because I felt that if I used Soul Drain right here, it would actually mess up my rotation even more. So I did that, and then I used Vestige, the Empowered Vestige. If I'd used the Soul Drain instead, what would have happened is I wouldn't have had it up for this rotation. Then I would have had to sacrifice Lethal Spinning, and that's one use of Lethal Spinning in Soul Snatch mode that I would not have had. Now, when I did this and just waited, I now have a smooth rotation for my next rotation, and then we eventually push ourselves into Soul Snatch mode right here, and then everything is reset. That is a situation that a new player has to handle and think about. Did you get that right? If you did, that's 1 point for you. Now in this next situation, we have a case where I throw out my moves and we're going through normally, but then we get knocked down earlier, right? As you see, we were in mid-harvest here, and then he slammed down on us. We'll go back a little bit more. Mid-harvest, he slams down us. We miss some of that meter. Then we go into a rusted nail, and we don't have enough soul meter, the souls, the gems. What do? Do we auto attack? Do we wait for our lunatic edge to come up and use that? Do we use our soul drain? Well, the correct answer here would be to just auto attack and then get our meter and then proceed with our rotation as normal. Again, if you got that right, that's another point for you. Now, in this situation, we are just going through our rotation normally, right? This is the beginning of our run, so we're going to use our Awakening to activate our Nightmare. And then we're just going to proceed with our rotation as usual. Things are pretty smooth here. I did miss that last hit of Harvest, but that's fine. We still were able to get our Soulstone meter up. Now, in this situation, again, we whiffed our Soul Drain. What do we do in this situation? We hit this right here, and look, we don't have enough bubbles to make it work. Do we go for a Lethal Spinning? Do we wait for our Lunatic Edge to come up? Because, well, Lethal Spinning is our next skill up, right? If we wait another second, we can also use Lunatic Edge to make up for it. Well, in this situation, I waited, got Lunatic's Edge, and then got the meter I needed. Again, if you got that one correct, that is another point for you. Those were pretty easy ones so far, pretty tame. But here is a situation that I would say is probably a very, very difficult one for a lot of people to think about on the fly again. When you're in the middle of a fight, when stress is high, when you're progging a raid, whatever it might be, your ability to decision make is probably worse than if you were just sitting here in front of your computer watching this YouTube video. So let's get into this situation, right? So in this situation, I miss Soul Drain again. And then I also missed my Harvest. This can totally happen, right? The Sonnenveil could have teleported. You miss your Soul Drain. Fine, you wait for him to come back. And then you try to throw Harvest out, but then he uses an attack to interrupt you because Harvest doesn't have paralysis immunity. You miss both abilities. What do you do in this situation? Do you just spam your skills? Do you wait for everything to come up? What do you do? And you're also, one thing to notice is, I'm about to head into Soul Snatch mode. Do I want to spend Lethal Spinning? Because if I do, I might not have Lethal Spinning for Soul Snatch mode, and I'll have to wait for the cooldown to come back up. In this situation, what I ended up choosing to do is just spending everything. I spent my Lethal Spinning, I spent my Lunatic's Edge, I spent everything. That way I could go into Soul Snatch mode, and I am giving up a Lethal Spinning in Soul Snatch in this situation. But I think that is a small price to pay for the amount of downtime I would have had to wait for my skills to come back up in order to keep my rotation normal. So these were all situations that really do come up in raid situations. Did you get them all right? Did you not get them all right? Were there some that you didn't get correct? And again, I'm not saying every single decision that I made was the correct one, but again, these are situations that you have to deal with as a Night's Edge Soul Eater that a lot of new players wouldn't be able to think about or do on the fly while they're trying to learn a raid. So this is why I don't think that Night's Edge Soul Eater is the best class for a beginner, because the rotation itself is just so strict, and when you do mess it up, there is a lot of on-the-fly thinking that you need to do to fix your rotation. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. Let me know down in the comment section below if that convinced you that it's not a good class for new players. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to hit the like button, hit the sub button, ring the bell for notifications, and also I stream every single night on twitch.tv/VSoXShiru, so starting at 10 p.m. PST, so hopefully I'll see y'all in my stream, but if not, hopefully I see you guys on the next video. Alright guys, peace out.